Guys, coming in from HousingWire, we have meet the homeowners giving up 4% mortgages and opting for cash out refinances. Like the title totally grabbed me because I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean cash out refinance?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I get it. It makes sense. We talked about this earlier in the show. People who got to make that move to make that move. So let's talk about some of this and why people are doing this. They had some examples in the article, but I mean, the cost of mortgages has obviously gone higher. But there are people where their situation requires they do a refinance. Let's talk about some of that right now.
Yeah, well, certain people have to do it, Andy. So it doesn't matter about the rate they currently have. It's a matter if, am I going to be able to keep my property based on my property debt? Yeah, I was at a low interest rate. I have a client, 2.75, VA. But guess what happened during that time afterwards? There was a daughter that had a car accident, and I don't know what happened, but he had to come up and pay for attorneys. I think maybe it was their fault. And so certain things happen in life that he incurred more debt after we had paid it all off when he got into this property. So fast forward a year later and change, your circumstances change. Certain things in your lifestyle change. And now it made sense for him to go out there and get a 7.25% interest rate because his blended rate, right, with the 2.75 and that's 25 and that other debt was much higher. So he was just like, I'm done. I need to pay this. Otherwise, what's going to go first is going to be my home. And so we want to make sure that it's not there. So there's certain circumstances and situations where a cash out refinance, a line of credit's going to work out, so it just depends.
Yeah, it just goes back to us always saying, it depends on your situation. So, you literally just got to talk to someone. I mean, come on, even the article says at the bottom, cash out refis are not a fit for every borrower.
I like that. Good disclaimer.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about just from the I got my old man hat on, it says even though about 30% of mortgages applications are for refinances, nearly 90% of current mortgages are originations today. They're purchase loans. So, sorry, let me say that a little more clearly. So, typically, you'd have about 30% of mortgage applications that are refinances and about 70% that are purchases. But right now, 90% of mortgage originations are purchases. So, usually when we talk about forecasting as a mortgage company and looking at the future, you estimate that about 60 to 70% of your business will be purchases and 30 to 40% will be refinances. Now, back in 2021, more than $1.2 trillion of cash out refinancing was executed. Which I think that was the record high in 21. It was also the same year we had the record low interest rates, which has caused the golden handcuffs of people willing to stay. They don't refinance. But again, circumstances sometimes override what the budget looks like. And look, I'm going to be honest. I've had people in the past where back when I was doing originations, they literally just overspent themselves and they were really falling behind on their bills, but we were able to catch it right before they were becoming late. And the only thing they could do was convert that debt into a cash out refinance or home equity line of credit to pay off the consumer debt because the amount of outflow every month they're out of pocket was $5,000, $6,000. But by refinancing it into a mortgage, even if the rate looked ugly on paper, if their out of pocket was $5,000 and we reduced it to $4,000 total, they just saved out of pocket $1,000 a month and they were able to preserve their credit. Sometimes that is the best short-term solution, even if it looks unfavorable. Guess what? Your family doesn't need to know. Your neighbors don't need to know. You don't got to tell your coworkers that's the problem. That's what you guys have us for. We can help you solve some of these issues before you get into a situation where you have a mortgage late, you have consumer late, and then you can't even qualify for that type of help.
Yeah, exactly, Andy. Good point. Don't wait till it's too late. And it could be too late, And Mikey, you heard our conversation, a couple of days ago of a client. He's already pre-foreclosure. And it's the regular traditional type of financing is not going to be able to, it's not going to come to play. So don't wait till it's too late. Whoever you're looking at, whoever's in your area, just ask them for their advice and make sure that you're being transparent and sharing how they can actually really help you.
Yeah. And I want to bring up another story. Again, this is kind of off the camera. I talked to friends and people in business, and I had someone tell me recently, like, hey, I just took out a $100,000 line of credit. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What are you doing? Are you building something? Are you adding the house? Like, no. I just took it out because I wanted to have it available and accessible to me. And I was like, okay, explain to me more. Like, well, I think this is happening in the market. I think this is happening in the economy. This is what my job situation looks like right now. So while I have all these things in order, I figured I might as well qualify for it, and then I just have it there. So here's the thing. This is $100,000 line of credit, and it's not even being used. So he doesn't actually need it right now. But it was like this fortitude and this thought of I better just do this now, because if I need it later and I can't access it, well, then I just shot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
So it was a total preemptive move.
So that's actually a great, I'm glad that's a great segue here. So it's not always to just pay debt off. You could always have it for a rainy day. As a matter of fact, it just gave me, you reminded me of my friend Dan. When rates were so low, he took $400,000 just to loan out at 20% to other people because he's an investor. So he understands the power and leverage of money. So he's like, wait a minute, I'm going to get this $400,000 at 2.25%. Like, why not? I'm going to leverage my home. And so we just hung up earlier this morning, and he was telling me he was in La Mesa working on his they're building a couple ADUs over there.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, you could always leverage it to make more money because once you have that line of credit, if you're not using it, guess what? No payments.
Right.
You're not incurring
no
anything.
payments, not incurring any interest, and you have it all accessible to you whenever
So
you
I'm
want.
glad you brought up that point because that's another form of how you could leverage your home to help you generate additional income.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I have another client coming in. They're going to look into the possibilities, exploring options of converting their garage into a one-bedroom ADU where they can rent it out for, $2,000 to $2,200. So leverage.
And here's something else I want to say. Like if you're looking downfield a couple of years, let's say you have a 3% right now, and you're like, oh yeah, but a home equity line of credit is going to cost me 12%. Okay, that's fine for today. But if home values are going to stay and also go up over the perpetuity of time, whether that's a 3-year, 10-year, 20-year time frame, and rates come down again from the 7.5, 8s into the 5s, you could find yourself where you're refinancing that back into a 5 or 6% fixed rate, and along the way, you completely gave yourself a long runway for doing and fixing anything you needed to, and having accessibility to cash that your house honestly did the heavy lifting for. Yeah. So, meanwhile, as you're doing that, you're paying down your first. So your combination of your new revised balance on your first 5 years from now and your home equity line of credit is going to be in your favor when it comes to looking at your budget every single month. So keep that in mind, even though we're being mathy right now. That's why, look, these are the conversations we have with people. This is why we say, hey, call Memo, call Brian, call Mikey, get yourself in here to talk about what it is you need to figure out so we can actually give you some help.
Yeah, the other thing, this is what this article's covering anyways.
Yeah.
So we just kind of put real life examples into this.
Yeah, and I understand there's going to be some reluctance and there's going to be some people like, it doesn't make sense. Here's the deal. Look, if it mathematically doesn't make sense, guess what? We can't do the loan anyways. Yeah. So you literally have nothing to lose by asking the question and going down the chart of curiosity and figuring it out. And if there is a solution for you, great, take it. If there's not, don't take it. If there's no deal, no deal.
And again, the reason why we use these real stories is just to give you some type of insight, give us, that information that we've learned and just pass it forward because we care. We care. We want to make sure that you guys, care for your other family members. If you hear for a certain situation, you're able to provide this information to them and they can go and seek the proper help that they require. Mm-hmm.